Marriages in urban centers today are more short-lived than they used to be.
Yes. Think about it.
More divorces are taking place.
Yes.
There are reasons for that. I don't want to go into that.
Yeah.
Just couple of points. I think the new proposal, which I understand, the law ministry has come up.
Yeah.
That all property should be taken into account is ill thought of.
Yeah.
I agree with that. You have to think about it properly. Normally, internationally, it is community of property which is brought into the marriage afterwards, for which the husband is responsible. That all women's organizations are supporting. So it means not only the man's property, but even the woman's property has to come in. Secondly, now please understand this, under the Hindu Marriage Act, not under the other act, if the woman earns more money, she has to pay in. Remember that. And that should be the fair system.
Yeah, what if the woman's parents are wealthier than the boy's parents?
Correct. Today,
what happens to inherited property then?
No, so what we have to decide is what should be community of property. Should it be the property which the husband and the wife bring to the marriage after the marriage? That should be the thing, I think. Because then you cut out all this thing about inheritance. Whatever comes into the marriage after the marriage, and also including the woman's property, then it's a fair game.
Okay. So you're saying
I
want to make
Mr. Grover says bring both. Bring both.
Bring women and
fine. But the result will be 1 plus 0 is 1. Why? How many people in our social setup
leave property to their daughter?
The wife. So when there is a marriage, it's only the man who gets some inheritance, or otherwise the wife situation. Yeah, so unless
if the woman is wealthy,
as I understand the proposal of the government. Okay. 1 minute, just let me say one thing. Look at the situation today. Daughter does not get anything from the parents. After marriage, she'll get nothing from the husband. So what should she
But
do?
why doesn't the law, which is proposing to make the man's family partake of its inherited property with the woman he was once married to, why isn't there the same pressure on the woman's parents?
Under the Hindu Succession Act now, a woman is an equal inheritor. I think we should actually enforce that equal inheritance.
But would you support Anand's proposal to bring the woman's property also into the community of property?
Why not?
Why not?
But, you know, there are different laws in different countries. For instance, in the state of California in the US, both inherited property and the self-acquired property during marriage becomes communion of property. In Goa, it's inherited property as well as acquired property. I mean, there can be a number of years. We can find solutions for everything. We can talk through everything. There can be, we can say, okay, you will only get a right to inherited property in a house if you have been living there for a certain number of years. And what happens is, as far as I understand Law Ministry's proposal, it was that only in the residential house or property you will have a share, half share.
Can I hold all of you, because I want to hear a little bit from the audience. Just a minute, we'll return to some of these questions. I have Vandana sitting next to me. Vandana now runs a magazine called The X-File.
Yes.
And it's for people who have been divorced. Vandana, your own story was that after 6 months, you wanted to exit from your marriage?
That's right. Actually, I was thrown out of the house after 6 months. I didn't have parents, and I came back to the home that my mother had left me. And I really walked out. I had 750 rupees in my bank account, and that's what I keep on saying. I had that 750 rupees. I came back, I sat on the steps. I didn't even have a key of the house. And in my divorce actually took 10 years. We were married for 6 months. And
that's bizarre.
Exactly. But it happens in the judicial system. So for that 9.5 years, we were just in court.
Over what? Did you vote for a right to alimony or maintenance?
No, actually I didn't. They filed for divorce, and then they wanted to walk away from the marriage, and somewhere down the line they decided that they wanted to file miscellaneous applications, and they wanted to teach me a lesson. And I didn't have parents, I didn't have money.
Your parents were not alive at that time?
They were not alive. I didn't have parents, I didn't have money. My maid used to work for free for me for the first 2 years before I got a job back, and unfortunately or fortunately I looked the way I do, and people wouldn't give me a job saying this one looks too rich. So we will not give her a job for 2 years. No one came to help me, and I say that in India, divorce is a socio-legal issue. We come with band baja barat to the wedding. We do the same to the divorce courts. You have your mamas and your chachas sitting, and you have your mothers.
So it's a tamasha.
It's a tamasha. And I've been through being a litigant. Then I started a support group called 360 Degrees Back to Life. So I became a counselor, and now I'm a lawyer. And in the 10 years that all this has happened, I've seen divorce grow by about 150 times.
And would you insist on 50%?
Absolutely.
You would?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because like Pooja said, a lot of businesses are run on cash. So suddenly I'm married to this guy who are maybe the top 100 families of India. And when I marry him, he's a prince. But when he has to pay me, actually I'm a pauper.
Okay, let's get some more questions in.
But I'd like to say one thing. You know, the way that she has been trapped into a marriage and then a divorce. Okay, for X number of years. There are also men that would like to get out but can't because the wives choose to hold on, and it's taught. I think if there's a law, it needs to be really well thought of and thought out, and it has to be fair for all.
Okay, one more question here. Then Jazz, we wanted to speak for a while.
I'm going back a donkey years ago. You know, we often heard marriages are made in heaven, right? Okay, now, you know, assuming so many women and so many male here, probably no guns, Barkha, we're very lucky we'd have a riot out here otherwise. Honestly, I feel as a man, I've been married for 23 years now. Yeah, everybody has issues, everybody has problems. I have a simple question to the audience watching us today. Can you get into a communication mode? Why do you need law into your bedroom like Barkha said? Things can be eased out. It's the way you think. I'm believing.
Ask that to people who are beaten.
I'm not a god man. I'm
Ask that to people who have been tortured for
you know,
ask that to people who are in love.
While I'm speaking here, let me be very honest, Pooja.
It's not about communication.
While I'm speaking here, today is the 7th day my wife and me are having a cold war. I hope she's watching me right now. I'm telling you.
But see, even you needed to come to a TV studio to talk to her.
TV is a good thing.
Sunday morning, we had a very stupid issue and we got into a cold war. Right, Barkha?
I don't know.
I'm mentioning it. Wednesday evening, I called her up. Fortunately, she has a mom here and my mom and dad also close by. Every night, every alternate night, she goes to one mom in here and one mom there now. Day 3, I call up, enough is enough, why don't you come back home, stop doing this drama, I'm doing drama, you're doing drama, let's close it. She's back home with me.
So you're saying you have a problem with the state being given this much power in the relationship? Judge Jetli, and then Anand.
I have two questions. Why don't we have a law which insists that the girl has to get property equal to the boy? One is that would be a simple answer. Not so simple perhaps in terms of what men want to do. The other thing is why don't we have a system of a prenup, which they have abroad, which we are trying to look at. After all, in Muslim personal law, they have to discuss, because they do look at marriage as a contract. And they do discuss over then that if there is a breakdown, then the man has to give so much. Now, if it's a rickshawala, he can say, "Theek hai, I'll give you 10% of my minji, 200 rupees I earn in the day." If it's a lakpati, he can do that. It solves the problem right there. We are complicating it.
I'd like to say something. I had a Muslim marriage too. I'd like to say that, a Muslim marriage. And meher was given mainly as a token, because you don't go into marriage say, "I'm going to get divorced, what you going to give me?" And generally,
but that's what she's proposing, that now have prenups. Anand, my question is this. Would all of you support making it mandatory for the woman's family to be as accountable for this community of properties that you speak about? Yes?
Certainly.
You know, I think one question that has to be clarified is, what do you mean by woman's family or man's family? What we are talking about...
I mean inherited property.
What I'm talking about is community of property which the man and the woman brings to the marriage. You need not have the inherited property, but if he brings to the marriage, after the marriage inherited property, then that counts. So it depends on how you define it. But one of the things that we must not forget, the children. Whenever children are involved, right now I have a case where a man is very wealthy, everything is in cash, he has walked out of the marriage, he's left 2 children with a mother, and she has no job. Very wealthy. She's staying in a very luxurious apartment, but she has no money to pay for the outgoings. What does she do?
Can I hear from a man's perspective? Because some men will also say, yes, I walked out of the marriage, after which, what Pooja said, I cannot get a divorce and I don't get right to meet my children. Vitesh, you, after how many years did you want a divorce?
Around 3.5 years of the marriage. I realized that within the few months of the marriage, I realized that it is a totally incompatible marriage and we are like not made for each other. And we kind of still try to adjust for 3.5 years, and then finally she walked out of the marriage with her parents. And then after 6 months, when all the talks failed, we decided to file a divorce case. And as soon as I filed the divorce case, all the possible matrimonial criminal cases like dowry, harassment, domestic violence, Even they went a step further because her father was a lawyer. They went a step further and they filed an attempt to murder case on me. And my sister, she's American citizen right now. She got married 3 years before my marriage. Even she has been falsely implicated into this false case.
So what is the status now?
The case is still on, and they're not coming up for the dates. She don't want to leave me.
She doesn't want to stay with you, nor does she want to...
Absolutely. And now they're asking for alimony. And with this 50% property, I don't know where it'll be heading towards. I mean, this is totally rubbish.
Why are you not willing to part with 50%?
Why should I? It is the hard-earned property that I've made. She has not contributed anything. I'm okay if she...
You have children?
Yeah, I have a daughter. I have not met her for last 4.5 years. She is 4.5 years and I have not met her for last 4.5 years. I have not been allowed to meet. I'm paying the maintenance for her. I'm paying the maintenance regularly, but they don't allow me to meet the daughter.
Kirti and Mukul, come in there, and then Ranjana.
Yeah. Obviously, there will be cases, and we shouldn't allow that. But to stop that from happening, you see, right now women resist divorce because they think once they're out of it, they will not be able to survive properly.
Yeah. Okay, I have to go to a break, but I want to ask all three of you briefly, what is the ideal formula? Mukul.
By calculation of, say, as he says, if you bring in matrimonial property, you decide. Yeah. But suppose there is no matrimonial property, then what happens? Then also you have to have some measure. So some measures have to be made.
The number of years.
Some measures have to be made.
If you've been married for just a year, it doesn't make sense to take 50% of the property. Yes, if you've been there 7 years plus, then the 50% is valid.
There is one more problem. If you have 3 children, and the wife is given 50%, let us say there is a flat, a 2-bedroom flat, 50% is given. So the wife remains in that 50% or she gets the value. So you have 3 other children. What will happen to their inheritance? Or is it correct to say that the inheritance of 3 children should go only through the husband because the wife has taken away 50%?
No, wife will also. They'll be inheriting from the wife also. They will inherit from the wife.
All I'm trying to say is, until you think it out correctly.
Can I say something?
Ranjana, quickly, then I want to hear from
very quickly, because this is something which needs to be paid attention to. Duration of marriage.
Yes.
Change it to spouse, so there is man and woman both included. And also we are saying community of property. Nobody is going to penalize the other person. Nobody wants to do that. But look at the debate. You know, the debate always has talked about division of property as an issue, and division of property has been never an issue when it comes to dividing between the boys. It becomes an issue the moment you talk about dividing between the girls, and the moment it is to give actually the real right to property is one of the tools by which patriarchy has always discriminated against women. That is needed now. We have to do it.
Before I take this to Anand and Jaya, we've spoken of urban people who go through this, and the dilemmas there are very different. I have here to my right Rekha, and Rekha was actually thrown out of the house when she was carrying a second child who was a girl. Rekha ji, जब आप पेट से थी और आपकी बेटी होने वाली थी, तो आपके आदमी ने आपको
छोड़ दिया था.
क्यों छोड़ा उन्होंने?
वो मैम लड़की के लिए चेकअप कराने के लिए बोल रहे थे. वो उससे मैंने मना किया तो इसलिए मेरे साथ में मारपीट की गई. फिर भी मैंने नहीं माना तो मुझे यहाँ छोड़ के चले गए थे 8वें महीने में.
अभी बच्चों का देखभाल कौन करता है?
अभी मेरी मम्मी पापा के पास है और मैं भी वहीं पर रह रही हूँ.
और वो कहाँ है?
वो मथुरा.
और वो कुछ बच्चों के लिए या आपके लिए पैसे देता है?
कुछ भी नहीं.
तो आपने कभी सोचा कि मैं केस फाइल करूँ?
जी मैंने केस फाइल कर रखा है. अब मेरा मेंटेनेंस का चल रहा है.
और आप इनसे डिवोर्स चाहती हैं कि आप इनसे मेंटेनेंस चाहती हैं?
मैं मेंटेनेंस चाहती हूँ. बच्चों को साथ रखना चाहती हूँ.
बच्चों को अपने साथ?
अपने साथ.
और अगर वो मिलना चाहे बच्चों को तो आप क्या बोलेंगे?
मैं नहीं चाहती मेरे बच्चों से वो मिले, क्योंकि उनका जो रवैया है वो बहुत गलत है.
और अगर बच्चे बड़े होके मिलना चाहे?
अगर बच्चे चाहते हैं तो मैं उन्हें रोकूंगी भी नहीं, मैं जाने दूंगी, क्योंकि वो उनको ही पता चलेगा कि मेरे पिता कैसे हैं.
So these are two very different. There is Vitesh saying for 4.5 years I haven't met my daughter. There is a woman saying I was thrown out of the house, I was beaten. I don't want my children to meet such a man. They're very, very complex terrains, and what's worrying me is that there is a hurry to push this through. It doesn't look like everything has been thought through.
See, go to the root. The root is that all parents will give or bequeath property to the male
and
not to the daughter. Maybe give her some money, but never the property.
Yeah.
So either you take a radical step. If you remove the power of making a will,
and make it mandatory,
mandatorily it will go down one half each. I don't know if you can do that. Whether that's valid, invalid.
No, okay,
can I 1 second? I have to take a break. Yeah,
just briefly, there are two rights here.
Yeah.
One is the right to inherit from one's parents, and the other is the right to matrimonial property. A woman is entitled to both.
Should the man be entitled to both if the woman is richer?
Sure, I don't mind. 9% women only in our country have a right of title to land. Do you know that? Because they don't get it from their parents and they don't get it from their husbands.
So I mean, Vitesh,
why don't they earn it?
How are they to earn it? Jaya Jetli. He says, why don't they earn it? I may also say that because I had the same education, the same property. I grew up in a house with the 2 daughters. I never had to face discrimination. But Kirti makes the point that we are this minuscule.
The women of India are the same as the landless of India, which are men or whoever has the property. 30% or more of this country is landless. And all those people mostly stick within their marriages because they look at marriage as something completely different. They procreated, they have to cook their food, somebody's looking after them, they get a roof above their head. As long as they don't get beaten, they think they've got a pretty good life.
I wish.
I think what I heard from what Jaya was saying was that there's a certain kind of morality, middle class morality about marriages in urban pockets that maybe rural India is not really interested in imbuing it with that kind of sexual morality.
That's a very tinted view of rural India.
That's what she's saying. I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying that's the point she's making.
I think livelihood is issue anywhere.
Okay, I have to take a break. Please. I have to take a break. When we come back, brief last comments from our panel. Their concrete proposals. What would they like to change after a short break? On We the People, contentious new proposals to the marriage laws of India have divided public opinion. Do these laws protect women, or do these laws give the state an opportunity to meddle too much in the already fragile institution of marriage? Before we go back to our panel for final comments, let's hear a little bit from our audience. To my right is somebody who had a multitude of experiences. She went from being Miss India to getting married, to then being in a situation where the husband has actually locked her into litigation and is not taking a clear position, putting your life in limbo. Tell us your story.
He just wanted a trophy wife. He got a trophy wife. I was married for 10 years. All that was promised, he chased me, literally chased me and said, this is the girl I want to marry. Once I was married, whatever I wanted, I had to work for. He gave me no money. I was harassed for everything. The status now is I'm divorced for 15 years. I brought up my 2 daughters all alone. I sold all my jewelry. I don't have a penny from him. He did step in to helping the children when they were about 15, but they were about 5 when they came back to India. Today the children are being helped by him. I don't have a penny. I work.
And did you work after marriage? Did you have a source of income?
I had to. I had no choice.
You wouldn't have wanted to work had you had a choice?
No, I would love to have a choice whether I want to work or stay back home, but I did not have that choice whether I was married or not. I had to work to get.
So you would support these?
Definitely.
Okay, let's take some more questions.
Yes. Okay, so this happened in my family. This couple, they were married for 14-15 years and the marriage just broke down. They had a property together, a flat together, and she was kicked out of it. She had to go back to her parents' place. In the meager income she had to support 2 children. She had to support her parents plus look after the maintenance of the house. He refused to pay alimony. He refused to support the children, saying he's bankrupt. He threatened to file a case of desertion. And the woman is completely trapped because she's afraid of the legal system because it's going to drag on for years.
So that is what it is actually, that the legal system actually evokes such terror. So how do you both keep protection but insulate people from that trauma? Let's just take a last question here.
Hi, I'm a single
single child of a single parent, so I've been brought up to be very independent and be financially secure. And I kind of support what Pooja says and Jaya Jaitley says, that a woman has to be self-reliant, and we do not need to be dependent on alimony. I mean, if you can do it on your own, why not?
That's a good thought. If you can do it on your own, why not? Isn't that a modern philosophy that we should encourage? Do you disagree with that?
Yeah, I disagree. Not with the view. Basically, we as urban women, we can think about it. What about the grassroots level people in rural India? 90% of rural Indian women.
But you're saying if you were married, you wouldn't want to take alimony if the marriage didn't work.
I think that marriage needs to be taken as a serious institution. Today, it's like the instant microwave age. Everything is instant. So marriage is often seen as instant thing. It either works or you just give up on it in like 3 months. I know friends who've kind of walked out of marriages in 4 months, 2 months, 3 weeks. So people actually, I'm kind of speaking from the urban side, do not give any time to marriages.
Let's start taking last comments, and I'll get a couple of more audience questions. Ranjana Kumari, very brief, 30 seconds last comment. Something you'd like to see change?
Well, I think the amendment has been very carefully thought through. We have sat through with the National Commission for Women for years to discuss it, debate it.
Yeah.
We have arrived on a
You think it's thought through? You think it's thought through? It doesn't need more changes?
It's time. First of all, most importantly, it's time to give Indian women justice. Thirdly, that, irretrievable breakdown of marriage, I think that's a contesting, because people should debate it, because majority of the women do not have a choice in India. If they are just being left high and dry because man doesn't want to live with her, then I think it's going to be a big problem. So I think for that...
But here's my question. Would you, Jaya Jaitley, want to live with somebody who didn't want to live with you?
Yes. Not at all.
Jaya Jaitley, last thoughts in this law.
No, I would still go back to the idea of a prenup if you only got to look at women's rights through divorce. But I would still prefer that we insist on property being divided equally. As it is, marriage within society is a controversial thing, and more interference of laws and complicated thinking, and even everyone here not knowing what the law actually means.
No, we know what the law is.
These lawyers don't seem to know.
No, they don't agree.
Don't agree.
Okay, one question.
We are all talking about that women should be self-reliant. But don't you think the first step towards empowerment is to feel strong? And if you're leaving up to the court to decide case by case, then there's there's a need for women to feel strong, that if I come out of the marriage, yes, I'm going to get a particular share.
Okay, Kirti, something you'd like to see change in the amendments?
I think it's a historic opportunity for women, right to be recognized within marriage, for them to be treated as equal partners. Let us fight for equal rights for women within marriage. Let us recognize what they have been doing all these years.
But nothing you'd like to see change or fine-tuned or streamlined?
Well, the laws are, according to me, women should have an equal right in both movable and immovable property. And apart from that, we should have an independent right to matrimonial property act, which will apply to all Indian women. We just don't want amendments to the Hindu Marriage Act and to the Special Marriage Act.
I just think that one of the things we haven't spoken about enough, and as we end, I just want to underline it, is children. When sparring partners are locked into endless litigation, when divorce becomes so difficult, it's really the children who go through hell. And I have here somebody whose parents have been separated.
They're living separately. They haven't been divorced exactly, but for more than 10 years they're living separately, and I'm living with my mom, and like you, Pooja ma'am, she has come up well on her own. So I don't think there's a particular need for women in every aspect to get a part of the property. I mean, you want to empower women, that's fine, but at the same time suppress men, why is that?
Nitish, क्या बोल रहे हैं?
I mean, when women file false cases on men, just to get property.
Men can also file false cases against women. So it was both.
And 498A has made marriage a cash industry.
Let Pooja speak. I've got to start winding down now. Pooja, yeah.
Barkha, I'd like to say that there's a quote which says, a man's work is from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done. Yeah. You know, her eyes open before anybody else in the house, and she goes to sleep well after everything and all the lights are shut off. I'd like to say one more thing.
Quickly.
That the divorce in India currently is a word that is associated with stigma.
Yes.
Okay. I would like that to change. I would like that to change to empowerment. If we're doing such a bad job in botching up our laws, let's take a cue from the West.
Jaya, Anand, and then last word to Mukul. Jaya.
Very short sentence. This girl said that we should come out of a marriage strong. I believe we should go into a marriage strong. Then whether we come out or not is upon us.
Anand, to both of you, something that the bill needs to look at.
Well, I think the overall situation has to be addressed where women are encouraged to find jobs. That's very, very important. I did Air India cases. I know women how they were treated. Secondly, I think there should be community of property. Thirdly, the children must be catered for. They have to be catered from the same property. That can't be left out.
According to me, these amendments are not well thought out. They are wholly lopsided and arbitrary. Plus, it seems to me that this entire discussion is really based on people living in Bombay, Delhi and Calcutta. But this is not India. And we are talking really in commercial terms. You get this, I must get this. But I'm sorry, if this is the way, then probably I would say don't have a ground of irretrievable breakdown of justice.
Well,
because
that's...
you're going to get
but
so
you
much,
give me last word.
You already had your last word.
At the moment, there is no species on this planet as disempowered as Indian women, because they do not have any right in terms of property, in terms of power, and in terms of.
And I would just end by saying that I wish that as we raise some of these very important issues for women, we also really need to look at not just the marital home, but also what happens to a girl child, to a young woman, even before she gets married. According to me, discrimination starts there, and according to me, how parents will their property is also very discriminatory, and that also needs to be focused on. But the volatility of this debate seems to indicate to me that we need a greater debate, we need greater transparency. We leave it there. Thank you very much, everyone.